Guys, it's 5 minutes of midnight on New Year's Eve. What are you doing? We're watching Mr. Talent 52's new video. Oh god, that guy. Hey, what's up guys? It's me, Mr. Talent 52. Today we're going to be doing a $10,000 2v2 Amount Us Challenge, Coronavirus Edition. Let's get into it. Peak YouTube. 2020 was quite a year. I mean, that's a pretty obvious statement. I mean, it was a pretty bad year. From the lockdown to the latest World War III scare to the wildfires, 2020 beat us down worse than 2016 did. Christ, that was 5 years ago now. With all that being said, let's take a look back at this year, starting with...
This is a certified.
I'll admit, when this quarantine started, I had no problem with it. Got to play a bunch of great games, listen to a bunch of great music, watch a bunch of great shows and movies, and overall just relax and enjoy my time. During the spring, all I had to do was school was going, do an assignment they posted whenever they wanted, as long as it was done before Friday, then hang out for the rest of the day. Fortunately, now they made it like it was in person, but now I'm at home, so that sucks. Anyway, enough current events, let's talk about something else.
Darth Vader!
If you ask me, the best industry and entertainment to be in during the quarantine is gaming. The quarantine gave rise to a lot of indie game developers who are able to make stuff in their own home and just directly publish it to Steam or whatever platform they choose. Of course, it's not to say a number of AAA games came out this year also. Doom Eternal, another installment in a series I love. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten a chance to play it yet, but I will as soon as possible. Last of Us 2, which I did not play, but the story seemed bad. I actually just got the first one, and maybe I'll, make a video or something. I don't know. Anyway, that's all I'm gonna say about that for now. Don't argue my comments. There's also Black Ops Cold War, which is a sign to me that the people at Treyarch and Infinity Ward are going back to their old roots. I'm still a little cautious to buy these new Call of Duties. The original ones, like Modern Warfare, are really the only ones I play at this moment. Now let's talk about some games that I actually played. Real quick, I want to talk about Spider-Man PS4. I absolutely love this game. I got it back in 2018 when it came out, and I still play it today. I got all the DLC, I 100% completed the game and the DLCs, plus I've been going through to 100% it once again. So when I saw Miles Morales being announced, I was really excited. But will my excitement backfire me? Not really. The game is really fun, but at the same time it's pretty weak compared to the original. Roxxon was just a reskin of Sable, and I found the story pretty predictable. It was also way too short. The original Spider-Man didn't have a super long story, but it didn't feel over before it began. I beat this game nearly 3 days after getting it. I still overall think this is a good game with fun mechanics, just not as good as the original. Deer Simulator was a fun game that emulates the vibes of Goat Simulator. It's pretty good, but considering it's in early access, there's not a whole lot to do right now. I may revisit this game in the future once more changes come. Another early access game I played was Baldi's Basics Plus. Of all the flash in the pan trend games, Baldi's was probably one of my favorites. Baldi Plus expands upon the concepts introduced in the original, while also adding new game modes, characters, and more. This is another game I can't wait to get more content. Another game I played was Walking Simulator, which is a pretty fun parody of Death Stranding that also brings some of its own ideas to the table. It's free on Steam if you're interested, although it can get a little dull. Another game I really enjoyed was Super Hot, Mind Control Delete. I love the original Super Hot, and it's probably my favorite game of 2016, but there are definitely problems with it. Mainly that by the end, it starts to feel pretty repetitive. MCD combats this by constantly introducing new things and ideas, whether that be new weapons, abilities, enemies, and more. There's also the Henry Stickmin collection. I briefly mentioned this game in another video I made, but it's basically a collection of all the original Henry games, plus a new one to conclude the series. I've been a fan of these games since 2012, so I was pretty excited for this. I did play it and I enjoyed it, and I got 100% on everything. Unfortunately, I also went over this in my video. This game caused a spamming of the funny distraction dance meme, which I can see everywhere online for a couple of weeks. That doesn't even compare to what came next. The company that published the collection, Inner Sloth, also published Among Us in 2018, which, because of the Henry Stickmin collection, blew up. It's a fun enough murder mystery type game, but the fanbase is one of the most annoying and unfunny I've seen. If I made my fanbase video just a month or two later, they definitely would have been included. Also, might I add, why would they charge $5 for a game you can get free on mobile?
Come on!
A similar yet unique game is Unfortunate Spaceman. It has a similar game mode in which you have to find a shape-shifting monster acting like one of your crewmates, but you also get guns. There's also voice chat and a more unique voting system where, unlike ejecting people, they get marked as suspicious. Plus, there's a story mode and a survival mode, so this game get old, and it has a lot to come back to. I definitely recommend this, mainly just because it's free. I also played Deep, a simple yet fun platformer that's a great way to spend time. I enjoyed the soundtrack and the overall aesthetic this game has, but it can also be very challenging at times. But it's still a very fun game overall. Wait a minute. I just learned something shocking. Doom Eternal. Actually, no, not that one, just the entire Doom series. It all rips off one game. Dumb Infernal. Truly a masterpiece of a game. Amazing graphics, amazing gameplay, amazing everything. You know now a little truth. Don't let big corporations lie to you. Okay, but seriously, this game is actually pretty fun. Sandless shooter that mimics Doom, but you have to fight off as many MS Paint creatures as you can. I don't talk about them much, but a company I really like is Devolver Digital. They've published a number of indie games I really like, including Hotline Miami, Broforce, and My Friend Pedro. This year, in response to COVID shutdowns, they had a game called Devolver Land Expo produced. It's a free virtual E3 that doubles as a stealth/puzzle game. I enjoyed both the gameplay and getting to see some of the upcoming stuff that'll be posted by them. Oh my god, I just received word that Bully from Rockstar Games is actually a ripoff of Bad Guys at School. Okay, I'm done with that bit. I promise. Bad Guys at School is a Bully clone, but I still really enjoy it because it's just more than that. Mainly full of sandbox elements to it. It's just a really fun game to play with your friends and laugh at how ridiculous it can be. Definitely check this out. The last game I wanted to go over is There Is No Game, Wrong Dimension. I also went over There Is No Game in my Flash video, but it's a short point-and-click fourth wall breaking game that I enjoyed. Wrong Dimension is a sequel to this that expands upon it even more, breaks the fourth wall in some clever ways gameplay-wise, like one section where you solve puzzles through the credits of the game. I don't want to give this one away because it's a game that you really have to go in blind on. I recommend getting the first one first. It's free and can take you like 15 minutes max to beat.
Goodbye.
To be honest, I started this year unsure of how the movies would turn out. Can you really blame me? 2019 was a great year for movies. We got Joker, Parasite, Uncut Gems, 1917, The Irishman, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, The Fanatic, and a number of other good movies. But can we get a year like that twice? Let's see some of the films coming out in these early months. Underwater, Like a Boss, Rhythm Section, The Lovebirds, The Hunt. I think you get the idea. I was really only looking forward to a few movies this year. Tenet, The Kingsman, and The French Dispatch, and some others, but I didn't really see many. The last two have been delayed to 2021, so how's Tenet? Well, let's take a look at some other films. I found out that there was a short film released about Todd and Lydia from Breaking Bad called Snow Globe, which was alright. I'm not sure if it was used as advertised for El Camino or not, considering it came out after that film did. Another short film I saw was the Safdie brothers' Goldman v. Silverman, which I really did enjoy. It stars Adam Sandler and Benny Safdie as two street performers who are competing with each other. It has the same style and intensity as Safdie's other works, such as Good Time and Uncut Gems, which I enjoyed a lot. Check this out if you enjoyed either of those films. Good animated short was If Anything Happens, I Love You, a surprisingly great and somewhat emotional piece about parents coming to terms with their daughter dying in a school shooting. It covers a problem that's been covered so much lately, but attacks it from a new angle that still somewhat works. I also saw Junkie, a film made in 48 hours. For a film made in that amount of time, it was good, but other aspects didn't really work, mainly the audio and the acting. I also watched The Weeknd's After Hours, which felt a little bit like I was just trying to ride off of Uncut Gems' coattails. James Wolfe came out with The Head Returns, which did have a lot of passion put into that, and I really do respect it. But there are still some problems with the film, mainly the obvious sets and some of the acting. The last short film I saw was The Stump Double, which was shot vertically on an iPhone.
Get real.
Besides that, it really didn't have much to offer, and I don't think vertical cinema, yes, that's what they're calling it, will take off. On to the feature films. Birds of Prey was one of two movies I saw in theaters before the lockdown, and it was not good. It tries to be clever by basically saying, hey guys, we think Suicide Squad sucked too, and that's all it has to offer. I do think there were some good performances, like from Margot Robbie and Ewan McGregor, but I didn't really like any of the characters, besides from Black Mask, Zaz, and Huntress. The other movie I watched in theaters was The Rhythm Section, which was even worse. It was a generic revenge action movie that was made worse by how boring it was. I found myself checking my watch multiple times throughout the film. Do not see this. The other DC film I saw was Wonder Woman 1984, which was not very good also. I thought the first one was okay, nothing special, but one of the better DCEU movies at least. 1984 drags on for way too long, the action scenes felt pretty stilted, and the visual effects were not very good. Plus, there are a lot of things that really bother me in the story, such as when they turn a plane invisible, possibly for fan service, and it disappears off of radar. That's not how radars work. I'm pretty sure anyone who knows this, even those who don't work with planes, 4 out of 10. I also watched The Old Guard, which is also a 4 out of 10. Action was entertaining enough, but the story bothered me. I honestly couldn't see the villain as much as a villain. I get he was going to charge money to give other people the group's power, but he did he really deserve to get thrown out of one? No. The post-credit scene also hints at the girl who was Charlize Theron at the Wish Trials will be a major appearance in a sequel, but as a possible villain? I don't get it either. I mean, maybe she wasn't going to be a villain, but it's just the way she was acting, it's weird. Project Power is another film I saw just because I was bored and it had some unintentional funny moments. The film itself wasn't terrible, it's a 5 out of 10, but there are random moments that made me laugh, like Casey Neistat appearing in a long shot of a guy with drums in the middle of a chase scene. The story wasn't bad and the action was alright, but the film was a lot longer than it should have been. It wasn't even 2 hours, yet it still felt a little over. Maybe that's just me. Trial of the Chicago 7 is a film written and directed by Aaron Sorkin, who wrote films like Moneyball, A Few Good Men, Steve Jobs, and one of my favorite movies, The Social Network. This is a pretty good court drama that has an entertaining storytelling method. Something that did bother me was the fact the film kind of ends abruptly. Haynes reads off the names of the Vietnam victims and it just shows text revealing the face of the 7. There are some pretty strong performances from Sacha Baron Cohen, Michael Keaton, Michael Redmayne, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I think Sorkin has some potential as a film director. I'm interested to see what he'll do next. Speaking of Sacha Baron Cohen, I also saw the Borat sequel, which was not as good as the first. There were some funny moments, and I liked the overall commentary it had to say about American society. However, some stuff bothered me, like the ending. The film ends with the Kazakhstani people becoming a more improved society, and I personally feel that satire content shouldn't have the people being satirized improve whatever it is that it's being made fun of. Take the game Broforce, which makes fun of the American military and the war on terror. It ends with the bros killing all the terrorists and America just continuing to be a superpower as the Bros are celebrated in one of the most patriotic celebrations ever. I think it would have been better if Borat 2 had a different ending than the one given. Overall, it was still pretty good. I also watched The Social Dilemma, a documentary about how bad social media is. It has the same reaction that I thought it would. People would freak out about how bad social media is, and then a week or so later return to it like nothing happened. It had some interesting insight, but I didn't really like the random fictional story that they put in between the actual documentary stuff. The last film I watched in 2020 was Death of 2020, a mockumentary created by the creators of Black Mirror. It wasn't that good. I'm all for joking about current events, but the requirement is that the jokes have to be funny. And now for the best and worst films I saw this year. The worst was Homeward, a ripoff of Onward, created by my favorite film studio, The Asylum. I don't know why I chose to watch this, but it was just so bad. The animation, the voice acting, the story, everything was awful. It was at least short. Anyway, now for my favorite film of the year, which is Charlie Kaufman's I'm Thinking of Ending Things. This is a beautiful, well-acted, mesmerizing piece that had some great themes with regret and melancholy. I couldn't believe how good this was. Definitely check this out. So I also read some comics. That Texas Blood is so far a really good neo-western with great writing and artwork. Firepower from Robert Kirkman, one of my favorite comic book writers, is really interesting in how it handles the story and characters with great vibes similar to Kung Fu stories. Hotline Miami Wildlife is also a pretty good side story to the greater overall Hotline Miami series. The story is told in a similar, non-chronological way as the games are, especially Hotline Miami 2. The characters are interesting to read. My main complaint is the action, which just kind of feels like generic shootouts, but the series overall is pretty great so far. I also watched The Boys Season 2, which is a huge improvement over the first season. Each episode is engaging in its own way. The actors are able to bring these great characters to life, especially Carl Urban, Anthony Starr, and Aya Cash. The story is also great in a way it ties in the current events as well done and doesn't feel preachy. The show in general is a very nice break from superhero movies and just superhero media in general, and I definitely recommend it. I also watched The Last Dance, which is an interesting done documentary series about the Chicago Bulls in the 90s, specifically the last year with the Dream Team, when people like Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan, and Dennis Rodman were together. The way it played with time was interesting. The few episodes we got of this room does not exist, and the interface is also well done as the rest of the respective series. I've also recently started BoJack Horseman, as well as just as the final season was released, so I may do a full review of the series later this year. I'm not sure what 2021 will be like. I have some hope that the COVID vaccine will likely be going public soon, and a lot of stuff released this year seems good. I'm also looking forward to Invincible, Amazon Prime original series based off the comic from Robert Kirkman, who I mentioned earlier. Many Saints in Newark, a Sopranos prequel starring James Gandolfini's son. Edgar Wright's Last Night in Soho. Dennis Villeneuve's Dune, the Kingsman prequel. Nobody, written by the creator of John Wick. No Time to Die. Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0 Thrice Upon a Time, Skywalker Saga, Weird West, and Road 96. I have confidence this next year will be good, or at least better than last year. I'll see you all down the road.